Welcome back to Elected. I'm your host, Luke Radel. Well, folks, it's been a minute. The last time I posted a YouTube video was in December of 2020. In that video, I pretended to become a congressperson, and apparently people were so angry about that they stormed the Capitol. Yes, a lot has happened since the last time we spoke. For instance, we have a new president now. It's out with the old, in with the much older. Tonight, we're going to talk about President Joe Biden and specifically what he says is currently his #1 priority, assembling his cabinet. The Biden cabinet has been characterized very differently by both sides of the aisle, with Democrats hailing the picks as a return to normalcy and experienced leadership, while Republicans say it's the rise of the bureaucrats and the DC swamp elites. And, I can see both arguments, although I do have to say that Republicans concerned about swampy cabinet officials didn't seem to share those same concerns during the Trump administration when his cabinet picks looked like they were from an actual swamp. But tonight, I want to talk about who is going to be in the Biden cabinet on an individual level. As president-elect, Joe Biden selected these people to lead the various departments in federal government, but it's not quite as simple as him just picking them. Each nominee must be confirmed by a simple majority in the Senate, which after Democrats Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock pulled off a win in both of the Georgia runoffs, currently sits at 50-50. With Vice President Kamala Harris able to break ties. The margins are razor thin, and the need for qualified individuals to be put in place is urgent, with crises like the pandemic, the economy, infrastructure, immigration, climate change, and racial justice all at the top of President Biden's agenda in the months ahead. So tonight, let's look at who President Biden has selected for these top jobs and answer 3 key questions. Who are they? Are they qualified? And will they be confirmed by the Senate? On the first question of who are they, well, they're people just like you and me with interesting quirks and some fun facts, like with Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, who we learned from a 2013 disclosure when she became Fed chair, has a sizable stamp collection, which according to Rudy Giuliani, she used to submit hundreds of mail-in ballots for Joe Biden in the 2020 election. So probably should have verified that before saying it. Speaking of the Fed, Yellen met her now husband, Nobel Prize-winning economist George Akerlof, in the cafeteria of the Federal Reserve. And according to him, quote, "We liked each other immediately and decided to get married. Not only did our personalities mesh perfectly, but we have always been in all but perfect agreement about macroeconomics," which is really a must for any relationship. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Relationship Advice with Luke Radel. I am, of course, Luke Radel. Pro tip, find someone with whom you're totally in sync on the branch of economics dealing with the performance, structure, behavior, and decision-making of an economy as a whole. Topics of conversation on a romantic evening might include the use of interest rates, taxes, government spending, all to regulate an economy's growth and stability in regional, national, and global markets. It just goes to show you that when it comes to love, don't just go big, go macro. And then there's Biden's pick for Secretary of State, Antony Blinken, who, under the Spotify name A. Blinken, has released 3 original songs. Now, if you'll allow me, let's take the next 30 seconds to get just a taste of the musical stylings of Secretary Antony Blinken.
Look around and I do see woman's got the best of me, 'cause my heart is sighing. All I want is you, you're all that's real. Help me now, 'cause patience is dying. Somebody like me, I wanted to tell ya, but I was so afraid, yeah.
Is Antony Blinken the greatest musician of all time?
Yeah.
Now, I probably should have told you this before, but Secretary Blinken was also playing the guitar on all of those tracks. So I know what you're thinking. Oh, Luke, wouldn't it be so great if we could see him performing live? Yes. Yes, it would.
Everybody knows.
Now, let me just say this. As someone who cannot sing at all, even with a liberal application of auto-tune. I am frankly glad that the Senate was able to look past whatever that was and confirm Mr. Blinken, because everybody knows he's qualified for the job. But that brings us to our two other more substantive questions. Are they qualified, and will they be confirmed by the Senate? And there's good news on both fronts for the Biden administration, because despite political posturing and the incredibly evenly divided Senate, Biden's cabinet nominees have been largely confirmed with bipartisan support and deemed qualified for their positions. Janet Yellen had previously served as Fed chair, so she was confirmed as Treasury Secretary by a margin of 84-15. Tom Vilsack had previously been Agriculture Secretary during the Obama administration and returned to that post after being confirmed by a 92-7 vote last month. And Pete Buttigieg was confirmed to Transportation by an 86-13 vote, which is not surprising because everybody seems to like Pete Buttigieg. Well, except for whoever made this ad for Joe Biden early last year.
When President Obama called on him, Joe Biden helped lead the passage of the Affordable Care Act, which gave health care to 20 million people. And when parkgoers called on Pete Buttigieg, he installed decorative lights under bridges, giving citizens of South Bend colorfully illuminated rivers. Joe Biden helped save the auto industry, which revitalized the economy of the Midwest, and led the passage and implementation of the Recovery Act, saving our economy from a depression. Pete Buttigieg revitalized the sidewalks of downtown South Bend by laying out decorative brick.
Wow, that's such a burn. I'm surprised that Mayor Pete didn't turn as red as Governor Cuomo when he grabbed that woman by the face. And now that Buttigieg is our transportation secretary, I'm actually excited to see more colorfully illuminated rivers and sidewalks with decorative brick in cities all across America. The point is, while many of the president's nominees have been confirmed with support from across the aisle, some have hit some roadblocks in the Senate. And I know some of you might already be thinking of President Biden's first choice for director of the Office of Management and Budget, Neera Tanden. She's been in the news a lot lately, and we are going to talk about her a little later on. But I want to start by discussing some names you might not have heard about, like President Biden's selection to head up the Department of Health and Human Services, an agency that is critical to this ongoing health crisis.
Sacramento native Javier Becerra will now be one of President-elect Joe Biden's closest advisors. Becerra, the McClatchy High grad and current California Attorney General, has been named to Biden's cabinet as the next Health and Human Services Director. Becerra is the son of immigrants from Mexico.
For Secretary of Health and Education Services, I nominated Javier Becerra. Javier Becerra, excuse me.
Yes, Javier Becerra is President Biden's selection for HHS, and his nomination has sparked controversy not just with Republicans, but also with those in the medical community. So I think it's time to ask the question, who is Javier Becerra? Or as the president would put it, who is Xylophone Barcelona? Here's what then President-elect Biden had to say about why he believes Becerra is qualified to lead this agency.
Javier spent a career fighting to expand access to health care, reducing racial health disparities, protecting the Affordable Care Act, and take on powerful special interests to prey on profit off of people's health, from opioid manufacturers to big tobacco.
Obviously, President Biden believes that Mr. Becerra is qualified to lead this department, but it appears that many Republicans are not convinced. 11 GOP senators, led by Arkansas's Tom Cotton, wrote a letter to Biden asking him to withdraw Becerra's nomination, saying that he has, quote, no meaningful experience to run HHS, and that the radical positions he has held, like his support for Medicare for All and his vote against a 2003 law banning partial birth abortion, disqualify him from a position of public trust. And again, the parallels to Trump are glaring. Radical positions and a lack of experience are the reason why people voted for him. But we do have to separate that for a minute, because Democrats came into office by saying that they would be better than Trump. And so we need to look at Biden's nominees on the merits. And with Becerra, it is difficult. Prior to being tapped for HHS, Becerra was reportedly up for consideration to be Biden's Attorney General, given his focus as California's AG and as a congressman for the Los Angeles area on criminal justice reform and immigration. That nomination ultimately went to Judge Merrick Garland, who, unlike Becerra, has garnered vocal bipartisan support, including from Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who, if you'll remember, was the one who gummed up the works and prevented President Obama from putting Garland on the Supreme Court during his final year in office. So McConnell was slow to come around to Judge Garland. Insert turtle joke here. Wait, is that a placeholder? But Becerra's nomination to HHS came as a surprise to many, particularly to the leaders of 5 major medical groups, including the American Academy of Pediatrics and the American College of Physicians, who wrote a letter to the president-elect in December calling on him to appoint, quote, qualified physicians to serve in key positions critical to advancing the health of our nation. Becerra is not a doctor, and his selection, quote, astounded people involved with the letter, according to the New York Times. And if you're looking to select a Secretary of Health and Human Services, you might want to make sure that it's okay with the doctors. Democrats don't seem to have a problem with Becerra's lack of medical experience, though, and have instead dug themselves into pretty bad hypocrisy arguments. Take, for example, MSNBC's Rachel Maddow, who dinged Texas Senator and frequent flyer miles recipient Ted Cruz for saying that he would not support Becerra because, quote, he's not a doctor. Maddow says that that's a bad faith argument.
So Senator Cruz is against Javier Becerra because Becerra is not a doctor. Nevertheless, Senator Ted Cruz voted for the last health secretary under President Trump, who was a man named Alex Azar. Senator Cruz voted for Alex Azar to be health secretary, even though, you will be shocked to learn, Alex Azar is also not a doctor. It's unacceptable to nominate a non-doctor to be health secretary unless that nominee is from a Republican president, in which case I have to go. Hola!
Okay, let's be clear. It would be hypocritical if Senator Cruz was calling for Biden's nominee to be a doctor while not calling for Trump's nominee to be a doctor if the context surrounding those two nominations is the same. But as everyone here is well aware, it's not. Back in 2018, when not Dr. Alex Azar was nominated, I could still engage in my favorite pastime of hugging random old people on the street. I can't do that anymore. The context has changed. And look, in the midst of a global health crisis, I'm not sure if I want to have somebody who has to learn on the job. I'm not sure I want to have somebody who has to learn on the job without a global health crisis. I would prefer that everyone is qualified for the jobs that they're put in, but especially when HHS is going to play such a critical role in the #1 issue facing our country right now, we should have somebody in there who knows what they're doing, like a doctor. And it's not just me and Ted Cruz saying that. It's other doctors. That's not the only argument about Biden's nominees that Rachel Maddow took issue with. She also says that they're unfairly targeting Interior Secretary nominee Deb Haaland. The New Mexico congresswoman is opposed to oil and gas drilling on public lands, which Maddow says shouldn't come as a surprise to Republican lawmakers.
You know who else has expressed concerns about oil and gas drilling on public lands? Joe Biden, who was elected president after publicly and repeatedly expressing those concerns, after making campaign promises about how he would govern as president, saying he would factor those publicly stated concerns of his into effect when he made policy as president.
Yes, President Biden also supports that policy, which makes sense. He appointed her because they agree on that. In fact, Rachel Maddow went a little bit further to say that if their views didn't align, then her appointment would be ludicrous.
And so, yes, he's now chosen somebody to be Interior Secretary who agrees with him on that. It would be weird if he didn't. It would be a scandal if he didn't. He wouldn't campaign on protecting public lands from new oil and gas drilling and then put somebody in charge of that part of the government who was like, yeah, gung-ho, let's drill the bejesus out of some sacred national monuments. I can get this done. I won't tell Biden.
Okay. But let's be clear. Getting rid of oil and gas drilling on public lands is not the only policy that Deb Haaland has supported. She's also been vocal about a ban on fracking, telling The Guardian in 2019 she is wholeheartedly against the practice. Joe Biden, on the other hand, made it very clear in the run-up to the election that he was not going to support a ban on fracking.
I am not banning fracking. Let me say that again. I am not banning fracking. We're not going to ban fracking. I'm not banning fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Did you rule out banning fracking?
I do rule out banning fracking. I am not banning fracking, period.
So, the question is, why would Joe Biden appoint an Interior Secretary who supports a ban on fracking when he has said that he does not? And I don't know the answer to that question. There could be a very simple one. But it is an important question to ask. There is a contradiction between what President Biden said and what his nominee represents. And that brings us to our final topic tonight, Neera Tanden. And let's start in the present, because many of you already know how this story ends.
There's breaking news from the White House. Neera Tanden, the president's pick for director of the Office of Management and Budget, has withdrawn her nomination. Tanden faced bipartisan opposition from senators because of her past comments on Twitter, including mean tweets about lawmakers.
Exactly 1 week ago tonight, Ms. Tandon asked the president in a letter to withdraw her nomination. Biden obliged and pulled the pick weeks after it was already apparent that her nomination was doomed to fail. In fact, many in Washington believed it was a lost cause from the start, with Politico reporting that, quote, just about everyone in Washington, D.C. could see that Neera Tandon's nomination to head the Office of Management and Budget was beleaguered from the beginning. Everyone, that is, except the White House. And like the bird sitting outside my window during a quiet moment of meditation, the main problem with Tandon is her tweeting. In the days after the election, according to CNN's K-File, Ms. Tandon deleted more than 1,000 tweets from her personal account, which is never a good sign. If someone applying for a job suddenly deletes 1,000 tweets in a very short time span, you might want to ask what those tweets are about. Many of her past statements as a firebrand political operative were harsh towards the individuals who she now wanted to give her a job. Tandon had called Senator Susan Collins of Maine the worst and pathetic, and said that vampires have more heart than Ted Cruz, referring to the GOP senator from Texas. Tandon has also compared Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell from Kentucky to Voldemort, and called him Moscow Mitch. Senate Republicans immediately seized upon these social media posts, with John Cornyn of Texas calling Tandon Biden's worst nominee so far. But according to Politico, the White House wasn't really working overtime to try and get Tandon confirmed. One senior Democratic Senate staffer complained that even early on in her confirmation fight, the White House was lackluster in its advocacy for her and tone-deaf to the chillier reception she was getting on the Hill. There were questions about how many champions she even had on 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. The staffer went on to say that her only backer was the White House Chief of Staff, saying, "Who does she have? Ron Klain. That's her constituency." Which is not a good sign, because Ron Klain is not a senator, but there were plenty of senators who were not on board. Cracks began to show with West Virginia Senator Joe Manchin, a conservative Democrat who announced his opposition to Tandon last month. Pragmatic Republicans like Susan Collins and Mitt Romney, who supported the conviction of former President Trump earlier in the month, also announced their opposition. Manchin's decision made the Tandon nomination a long shot, with many Democrats banking on still undecided Alaska Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski, but it was still an unlikely bet. Many pointed out that Murkowski, who's up for re-election in 2022, was hot off her vote to convict former President Trump and would be unlikely to single-handedly save Biden's most imperiled nominee. And while many speculated for weeks about where Murkowski was going to end up, we may never know, because when Tandon's nomination was pulled, Murkowski told reporters that she was still undecided, which seems like a miscommunication by the White House. Why wait for weeks to see where Murkowski will land, then surrender before she even makes her decision? But the answer may lie in other Democratic senators who might have signaled their opposition to Tandon to the White House. Two names that have garnered speculation are Arizona's Kyrsten Sinema and Vermont's Bernie Sanders, both of whom serve on committees key to the Tandon confirmation, and neither of whom announced which way they would vote on her, which is not good. Getting one Republican on board was hard enough, but trying to get three would be practically impossible unless they just started making up fake Republican senators, like Senator Wanda Maximoff from West Virginia. The conflicts she'd had with Senator Bernie Sanders were becoming increasingly apparent during her confirmation hearings, with Senator Sanders chairing one of the committees that she was speaking to. Tandon is a longtime member of Hillary Clinton's inner circle and was a vocal critic of Senator Sanders both during and long after the 2016 Democratic primary. Sanders said in a 2019 letter that Tandon has made statements, quote, maligning my staff and belittling progressive ideas. She faced tough questions about her comments from Senator John Kennedy, nope, not that one, there we go, of Louisiana.
I have to tell you, I'm very disturbed about your personal comments about people. It's not just one or two. I think you deleted about 1,000 tweets. And it wasn't just about Republicans. And I don't mind disagreements in policy. I think that's great. I love the dialectic. But the comments were personal. I mean, you call Senator Sanders everything but an ignorant.
That is not true.
And
oh, really, Neera Tandon? That is not true. We'll explain this clip of you talking to Bernie Sanders in 2016.
Dwight, you ignorant.
I'm being told that we had the wrong clip there, so I apologize. But speaking of apologies, I want to continue playing that clip of the exchange between Tandon and Senator John Kennedy, who tried to get at the heart of her apology-ish.
when you said these things, did you mean them?
Senator, I have to say, I deeply regret my comments.
I understand that, but
And
when
I
you
feel
said
badly
them, did
about
you
them.
mean them? I understand you've taken them back, but did you mean them?
I'd say the discourse over the last 4 years on all sides has been incredibly polarizing.
I'm asking about yours. Did you mean them?
I really feel badly about them, Senator.
Did you mean them?
I feel badly about them.
Did you mean them when you said them?
I mean, I would say social media is I've
Did
heard
you
a
mean them
terrible
when you said
discourse.
them?
I feel terribly about them.
Did you mean them when you said them, or were you not telling the truth?
I mean, I feel badly. I look back at them. I said them. I feel badly about them. I deleted tweets over.
Are you saying that because you want to be confirmed?
No, I felt badly about them.
Did you mean them when you said them?
Wow, she is really dodging that question. And it does go to undermine the Biden administration's pitch to the American people of national unity when you nominate someone who is a polarizing political operative to a top job.
To restore the soul and secure the future of America requires so much more than words. It requires the most elusive of all things in a democracy: unity. Unity.
And let's be honest, is it super hypocritical of Republican senators to suddenly take issue with mean tweets after supporting Donald Trump and a whole bunch of his cabinet nominees that also had partisan feats? Sure, but once again, comparing yourself to Donald Trump is an incredibly low bar. Watch. Hey guys, I didn't foment an insurrection today, or yesterday, or ever. I'm better than Donald Trump. Now that the Tandon nomination has been withdrawn, it'll be interesting to see who President Biden selects as his second choice to head up OMB. And hopefully this time, they won't be spending so much time on Twitter. Joe Biden's cabinet is an interesting group of people. One of them has a stamp collection, another has a collection of deleted tweets. While most of them will ultimately be confirmed, it is important to take a closer look at who the president has chosen. And it is a little odd to me that some of his selections seem to contradict statements he made during the campaign, whether it's about his position on fracking, or the need for experienced science-based leadership, or his message of civility. At the moment, Javier Becerra and Deb Haaland are both on track to be confirmed by the Senate. But as we saw with Neera Tanden, anything can happen in a Senate that is so evenly split like this. And at the end of the day, even if someone is deemed not qualified for the post or is not confirmed by the Senate, there are benefits to the publicity that comes with being a cabinet nominee. Like, for example, if you have a Spotify page with amazing original music. Seriously, Abe Lincoln is exactly what we need to bring this country together right now, and I am confident that that is the first and only time that has ever been said. Oh, thanks for watching.